From the heart of darkness, it's the DigiGods. Now here's two errand boys sent by grocery clerks to collect the bill, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Oh, it's so good to have you back and to have Corey back and to have an intro back. So, Corey, to whom do we owe that amazing intro?
That was sent in by Stuart Moncure, who loves the smell of movie references in the morning.
Yeah. Welcome back, Mark.
Well, thank you, Ross. Hi, everybody.
I think, Mark, do you have news to break to everybody?
Well, I mean, I don't want to make it seem like a whole thing, but
Yeah.
here it is. Here's the news.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you ready?
Ready for the news.
It's very exciting stuff. Wait, here we go.
Mesdames et messieurs, je vais quitter mon emploi et aller en France pour environ 2 mois. Oui, c'est vrai. Au début, je serai heureux. Alors, je vais être sans abri.
So, if I can translate that,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to quit my job and go to France for about 2 months. Yes, it's true. At first, I will be happy. Then I will be homeless. So that is the plan.
All right.
I'm
Very
going
good.
to quit my job,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go to Paris.
Very
for
exciting.
2 months, maybe 3. Because here's
Yeah.
the thing: I can go to Paris for 3 months on my passport, right? 90
Yep.
days.
Yeah.
So assuming the money holds out,
Yeah.
I can be there for 3 months,
Yeah.
and then we'll see what happens.
All right.
There you go.
Well, so in the meantime, then Tim will be stepping up and stepping in, and happy to do so.
Now this hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to rent out my apartment.
As soon as
I have not given notice yet at my job, but this is what's happening.
We will we begin the countdown. It's it's gonna be a few more weeks. We got you for a few more weeks,
Correct.
at least, yeah. So and then then it'll be what it'll be, right?
Yes, I don't know what is going to happen.
But we are launching the website probably this week, and we'll you will continue to contribute to that, and we're all still moving forward and doing what we do.
Now wait, did you guys talk about the website in my absence?
Yes, I had a good sit down with Kim, and she walked me through all the whiz bang fun stuff. So yes.
So does
It's going to be a work in progress. We just want to make sure that once it's up, that it's not just a complete and total misfire and
well, it will be that.
Yeah, it'll be a work in progress.
So
like anything else in life, like people.
Well, so does the listener know what's happening? Have they been told?
No, not really. I mean, everybody knows there's going to be a website. So the CineGod site, long overdue, will finally launch this week. And, it'll have blogs and reviews and commentary and eventually more elaborate features, some of which I've been working diligently one of which I've been working very diligently to try to put together for the better part of the last 8 months. Has not been easy, but and it's kind of amazing. It's longer than that even. It's been good grief since October, so it's going to be almost a year that I've been trying to put one of these pieces together.
Yeah,
but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's been worth it.
Should not have taken a year.
Well, no, for a particular piece. This is an integrated piece. You know what I'm talking about. You just haven't registered. Yeah, you do. I've talked to you about it. But it requires coordinating a lot of different companies.
Okay.
But it's which has been tough. But in any
I'm
case,
looking forward to whatever the hell it is you're talking about.
I'll tell you afterwards.
So we have a website launching, and I will be blogging occasionally from when this finally happens.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm holding up right now a photograph of my real estate agent. I'm showing it to Wade. This guy is literally, when I leave, is dependent upon him and how good he is as a guy who leases condos.
Well, if he is as good at leasing condos as he is at coordinating the handkerchief in his pocket with his tie.
This guy's such a dork. Seriously, first of all, this is about 30 pounds ago.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
He was recommended by the gal. He was recommended by the woman who found this place for me,
right.
my condo.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, let's go for it. And then he showed me. This is very interesting to the listener, by the way. Very interesting. He showed me the comps.
Yeah.
In terms of what I can expect in terms of rental.
Yeah.
Right. Now the whole idea, of course, is if I rent my place out,
yeah,
I want to be able to cover my nut, right?
Yeah.
I want to be able to cover my mortgage, my property taxes, my HOAs,
sure,
that insurance, that kind of stuff. So Because I bought at the top of the market because I'm an idiot.
I don't even know how to read this. This is just like a giant spreadsheet.
Because you lived in one home your whole life and you'll die there.
It's just a giant spreadsheet.
So the idea is that I think I can just get to right above my nut.
Okay.
Because I don't want to lease it for less because then I'm eating money every month. As it is, I'll be eating health insurance, cell phone.
Fun. Good.
It's fun for 2 months, then I'm homeless.
Yeah. Well.
And by the way, I have to lease this place out for a year.
Ooh.
1 year.
Wow.
Now, I can come back to LA, take a job, and go rent a place. But
Yeah.
I'm saying I could not live here for a year.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Man.
God, no earthquake, no earthquake, no earthquake, no earthquake. Oh, please, God, no earthquake.
Do you have earthquake insurance?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, well, good.
Not only do I have earthquake insurance,
When you live here in the valley, you need it.
well, also I have
'Cause this is like sitting on a sandbox.
I have assessment insurance,
Oh.
right?
Assessment insurance?
Well, here's the thing. Let's say there's an earthquake and this place crumbles to the ground,
Yeah.
and it costs $1 million to rebuild it.
Yeah.
Each of the 15 owners is assessed 1/15
Oh.
of that cost,
Oh.
right? So in order to hedge your bets against that, you
That's
take out
interesting.
assessment insurance. So you pay, let's say I would pay the first $20,000 of the assessment, and then insurance would pay the rest.
I only know about brush fire insurance. It's just,
You've had brush fires.
Welcome to the insurance podcast.
You know what's funny is that people think that like LA.
You know what? We would be so much more successful if we did an insurance podcast. You know that? You know how many more people would listen to an insurance podcast?
It's a very low bar because very little people listen to this. But you know what's funny is that people don't realize, in a way, LA kind of does have extreme weather.
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean,
it
not
does.
like Houston, obviously.
It's not the same kind. It's a different kind of extreme.
I mean, literally, there are brush fires that cover the mountains.
There's one right now. Like Corey, did you see the pictures
I did.
on Facebook? Corey's like taking pictures from his window of the giant, massive brush fire, and it is so massive. I had ash on my car. I'm like 30 miles away.
And there's also, by the way, extreme non-weather, which is the drought that
Yeah.
plagued the valley and
Yeah.
the city for 5 years,
Yep.
which is now over, thankfully.
Yep,
It just doesn't rain
it doesn't rain.
or snow. Although it might be said before we move on, people don't realize that one of the reasons why the movie industry moved to the West Coast,
Yes.
from the movie industry began in the East Coast, moved to the West Coast, was because there was all sorts of different types of weather available to them within an hour.
Yep,
If you want to shoot in the snow, get in your
Yep.
car, drive an hour, you can shoot in the mountains.
that's it.
If you want to shoot at the beach, get in your car,
You
drive
can-
30 minutes, go to the beach.
You can go from Big Bear to Zuma Beach to the Salton Sea or Death Valley. You can, within an hour. You can, you can, at least back then you could, with no traffic. Yeah,
Now
you
it's
could.
5 hours.
You had snowy peaks and lakes and beaches and arid desert. Yeah, it was.
Not only was the concentration of corporate power that was in the East that the movie business wanted to get away from,
Yeah.
it was also the fact that there was this access to all sorts of different weather you want to shoot in. And it never rains, so you don't have to worry about rain.
And great Mexican food, right?
Did they know that at the time?
No.
Did Louis B. Mayer know that?
No, I don't think he cared. Did Louis B. Mayer ever have like a burrito or an enchilada? I don't think so.
He was a fat guy. He had a lot. You know what's
Yeah.
funny with guys like that?
But he went to Musso and Frank's and he had the liver and cheese or whatever it was that they served. I can't eat there. You know that?
Musso and
I
Frank's
can't-
is great.
I just everything on the menu. Everything on the menu is some kind of slaughtered mammal that I don't eat or and their organs that are. It's all old school food.
Yes.
I'm not old school food.
First of all, they have a great martini, which you wouldn't know about.
No.
But also they have, they have a lobster cocktail, shrimp cocktail.
I don't. None of
Why?
them
Because shrimp
either.
do a shrimp have hooves? Is that why shrimp have
No,
hooves?
but
They don't
it's
have hooves.
seafood.
Huh?
It's seafood.
Is it shell food or seafood?
I eat Middle Eastern food. I eat Persian food. I eat Thai. I eat French food. I don't understand. I
It's a
eat,
great show, by the way.
Great Italian food.
It's a great show.
Yeah. Anyway, Indian food for crying out loud. That's what I eat. Okay, so we got some listener mail. We're gonna kick through some listener mail. You haven't been here for a few weeks.
Listener mail.
Nadeem sat in the last 2 weeks.
Did he?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because Tim was on his big family genealogy and eclipse tour.
Where'd you go?
And Tim was in Milwaukee and St. Louis and all over the place.
Wait,
yeah.
so what is Nadeem doing?
Well, Nadeem's getting his feature going, and
Is he actually getting his feature going?
I'm not going to jump the gun or anything, but there are some
The check's cleared.
there are some very interesting things happening.
Cast?
Yeah, very half cast actually.
Anybody attached that gets some money?
Possibly. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I can't really say more, but
Okay, I don't care about that. All I care about with Nadim is the collapsible pizza box. Remember that?
Yeah, he still got that.
Nadim, who you've met now through the
Yeah.
podcast, I like him a lot. I haven't seen him in years, but I always liked him a lot. He invented a collapsible pizza box.
He's in addition to being a very, very talented filmmaker, he's like a wizard. He has an inventor's mind.
This thing, he showed it to us.
Yeah.
It will take a large pizza box that you would get. Any college kid knows what a large pizza box looks like.
Yep.
And it is collapsible, totally made out of cardboard, right?
Yeah.
It collapses into the size of about a DVD case, right?
Yeah.
And but it's not bulky. It's amazing. This thing blew my mind. The only reason why I don't think every single solitary pizza company has not bought this from him
Yeah.
is either because they want to find a way to invent it themselves and not pay him. What?
I don't know.
It is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. He took an empty pizza box and the goddamn thing, I swear to Christ, it just folded up easily into the size of a DVD case and about the same thickness.
Well, we may as well plug the website then. It is ecofold.com. Eco-fold.com.
I did. Wait, what? I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know I had a website.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to anyone in years.
Ecofold.com.
Seriously, you have to go to ecofold.com.
Yeah.
Solutions, is that it?
Let's
It's a great
see.
show, by the
Yeah,
way.
I don't.
It's a great show.
Doesn't have the little video on there, but anyway,
Doesn't have anything on it.
Ecofold.
There's
Yeah, there's nothing on it. But anyway, that's the company.
Oh, it says Nadim though. Nadim at ecofold.com. What I'm saying is this thing. I swear to Christ, this thing will blow your mind.
It's
I don't-
amazing.
You know what? If Domino's would just pay him half a cent.
I remember the first prototype. I remember it exactly. I remember when he had made the whole thing and he brought it over and he showed how to work. I just thought, I don't even know how your brain. I don't even know. I wouldn't even. Where do you start? I don't know.
It's not a gag. It's the real thing.
No, it's the real thing. It's like a full-size pizza box, and then you just go clip, 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 fold, 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 put, and it just drops into the trash, and you don't have to like bend and scream and struggle. And we shot a promotional video for that at one point. Did you know that?
That's why it didn't sell, because you shot something.
No. There's a great little. Oh gosh, I've got to go find it. It was a full day shoot, and the whole idea was that there was like it was shot like a silent film. And I was the grip and gaffer on the thing. Nadim put the whole thing together. It was beautiful. It's a beautiful little promotional deal. Got a big muscle-bound bodybuilder guy. It was shot like a silent film. And the muscle-bound guy cannot collapse the full-sized pizza box as quickly as this wimpy little kid can do the fold up and drop it in the trash. It's great.
It's really one of life's great mysteries. Why this thing has not made him rich.
I know.
Great show, by the way. Have I mentioned this is a great show?
So here we go. Listener mail. We got some listener mail. So the first one is from Al in San Francisco, who sent us he just sent us a link to the Orpheum Theater canceling its Gone with the Wind screening because they didn't want to hurt people's feelings in this very inflamed atmosphere of tearing down statues and beating up Nazis and Antifa and everything else.
You know what? It's not even that.
So
it's not even that. Because I heard this story and it
yes,
pissed me off.
Yes.
It's not even that. It's really just the bearing of history. It's the same thing whenever they try to screen Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
As if somehow, if you just ignore your history, it's going to go away.
It is an interesting discussion. As I think everybody knows by now, I am 100% pro free speech and 100% anti censorship. I don't care what it is. I love Leni Riefenstahl's movies. I love Eisenstein's movies, notwithstanding the fact that they both worked for horrible, horrible dictators. There are things to learn, and you struggling with that is important. And is Gone with the Wind the most politically incorrect movie ever made? No. Is it politically correct? No. I don't even think Gone with the Wind is a good movie. I really find it excruciatingly boring and, kind of an atypical example of everything that's wrong with movie making from that period. However, the process by which the film was made, the fact that the book was a phenomenon, the fact that the movie remains one of the most successful entertainment phenomena of all time, all of the details around that are instructive. And I don't think I think we do ourselves a tremendous disservice by focusing on one at the exclusion of the others. Case in point, about a week ago, Tim and I were supposed to be guests at there was a Film Week thing at the Ace Theater downtown. The Ace Theater is an old movie palace, old Rococo movie palace, now owned by the Ace Hotel. which is adjacent. It was originally the UA Theater. It was built by Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks and D.W. Griffith and Charlie Chaplin. And it's beautiful. It was, what's the name of that preacher that used to do the... He used to have his big revivals down there. Gene Scott.
Gene Scott.
That's where Gene Scott he owned it for a long time. So it's beautiful, beautiful place.
I didn't even know that.
So we had there. So Larry Mantle, our Film Week host, he was going to have an anniversary screening, 20th anniversary screening of Jackie Brown, and Tim and I were going to go up on the stage afterwards and talk about Jackie Brown and blaxploitation and all the things surrounding Jackie Brown that make it awesome. And at the last minute, Quentin said, "Hey, I'd like to come too." So, and Larry says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Quentin's going to have to take the lion's share of the discussion." And Tim and I were, of course, furious. And we thought, a Jackie Brown screening and you're going to talk to Quentin about it? You should be talking to us, please. The filmmaker wants to talk about his movie. Let him talk about his movie. So it was interesting. We got to go up on the stage and sit next to Quentin and basically have the greatest seat in the house, talk about Jackie Brown for about a half an hour. Now, here's where my long story comes around. That movie is loaded with racial profanity. I mean, loaded with it, as Quentin stuff often is, which is suddenly, a lot more taboo now than it was then. And Quentin's caught a lot of flack for being a white guy that makes movies that really wallow in black culture, which is not my place to defend, but it's Tim's, and Tim defended him really, really nicely. And, the interesting thing is the original book of Jackie Brown, Rum Punch, is written for a white character. Quentin's the one...
Written by a white guy.
Written by a white guy, right, exactly. So Quentin's the one that took it and put a blaxploitation veneer on it, made it into a Pam Grier movie. He really fielded some interesting questions about that and was asked, what's it like when, people hate on you for this and that? And he goes, it sucks, I'll be honest. But, screw them. I'm just going to make my movies and I'm going to do what I want. And there it is. And that's the way that people have to defend their movies. And you have to defend Gone with the Wind the same way. Look, I've taught Birth of a Nation in college classes. And you do it not by saying, this is a great movie, you need to learn from it. You do it by embracing the controversy and saying, okay, do you have to wrestle with this movie? Do you have to wrestle with the fact that there are things that we would not have in movies today were it not for the fact that there was a movie made 100 years ago that basically celebrated the Ku Klux Klan? Can you wrestle with that? And can you reconcile yourself to that? And I think ultimately you have to. And that's really what the struggle for art is all about, is reconciling yourself to the fact that everything is a Janus statue. Everything has a face looking one way and looking the other way. And you really can compartmentalize those things. You almost have to. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to look at a Pasolini film and say, you know what, he was a dedicated Marxist and a really messed up guy, but he was an incredibly talented filmmaker. And I can look at the good and the bad and the flawed and the perfect, and I can wrestle with it, and I can extract the things I need to and learn from the rest. There's my lecture. And
it keeps going with Roman Polanski and Woody Allen.
Absolutely.
You're always having to make that decision for yourself.
Yeah, you have to. But you can't turn a blind eye to these things and censor them either legally or personally. I think personal censorship sometimes is more destructive than societal censorship. Because you're pretending that the only things that you can learn from are the things that you can fully accept and digest at first glance. And you're never going to grow as an artist or as a person if you do that.
Well, the thing that really pisses me off at the most elemental, more contemporary level is the idea that if 7 people on Twitter don't like something, everybody starts apologizing for it.
Yeah.
It's like, what? I don't care how many people on Twitter don't like it. You know what? Just great, don't like it. You're right.
And I'm a history buff, as everybody knows, and you don't learn from history by imposing the standards of the present on the people of the past. You have to judge them in their era and in their context. And kind of take a time machine trip back and sort of look at them through their own eyes. And that's not always easy, but it's essential. And movies are the same way. So anyway, Al, great discussion starter. Thank you for that. Really quickly, got a few others here. Lauren in Muskota, Wisconsin says, with the upcoming limited theatrical re-release of Star Trek II Wrath of Khan, do you think old movies have a chance of being a thing for audiences to go out to movie theaters? Since all theaters are digitally projected and most older movies have been remastered, maybe older movies have a chance to come back for a whole new audience. What I'm getting at is, instead of remaking old movies, RoboCop, Ben-Hur, etc., what about re-releasing the originals in all their remastered and digitally projected glory? Does this make any business sense at all?
Well, that will never become the primary way a studio makes money. They need to constantly be cranking out more IP and more superhero films that drive more people to the amusement park to go on the Avengers ride. You know, I think that Close Encounters, which is coming out for a week run, right?
Yep.
Next week.
Yeah.
That'll be instructive.
Yeah.
Star Trek 2 will be instructive because Star Trek 2 is one of the touchstone films for a lot of the fanboy directors who we're enjoying today.
Yeah.
Right? So ultimately, I think I'm hoping it becomes a bigger piece of the pie, but it will never become more than a small piece of the pie.
I emailed him back and I said, you know, yeah, re-releases were originally how movies made money when there was no television and no DVD and no streaming and no other streams to sell them to. You just kept re-releasing them again and again and again. If they made money the first time, they'll make a little bit the next time. Gone with the Wind made something like 30% of its current tally in re-releases, and Disney became the master of that. Some of those re-releases made more money than the original releases. But that said, I think that it could become a thing despite everything else if we get to a movie palace culture again, because everybody has the more that your living room becomes like a theater and the more the theater becomes like a living room, the less differentiation there is between the two. But if you get to a place where we have movie palaces again and people have a reason to go out and the experience in the theater is more spectacular than you could ever get at home, then I think suddenly it might be worth saying, hey, come and see Jackie Brown on the big screen at the Ace as you could never see it at home. And then I think you might get some traction. But it won't be huge. It'll be limited, but it may happen again. It could happen. Chevelle Dixon, it's been a while since I sent some listener mail, so I send my thoughts. Loved hearing about Wade's trip to Jordan. Sounded amazing and life-changing, and admittedly got choked up at some points in the story. Oh, I'm glad. Thank you, Chevelle. I would love to hear clips from DVD Roundup to hear where you guys started from. Also want to say I've been listening to the podcast for 6 years and have enjoyed every minute. I have one question. Now that Dunkirk is doing well and is critically acclaimed, do you think Nolan will be nominated for Best Director and can win? I think he's a front runner and believe he will. Interested in your thoughts.
Well, the movie is going to be nominated. There's no doubt about it.
And he'll be nominated.
And he'll be nominated too. I think he deserves to be nominated. If not for that, then for what? Because here's the thing: the older members of the Academy love that he's an evangelist for film over digital.
Yep.
Right. Everybody in the Academy can get behind.
As is Quentin, by the way. He was going off on that the other night too.
Oh, what did he say?
Oh, it was someone. There was this kid asked him, why do you always shoot in film? And he goes, because that's my medium. Some people pick oil and some people pick acrylics. I pick film, and I always think, well, that's great that you used video to shoot your movie, but it's too bad you didn't care enough about your movie to shoot in film. He was pretty straightforward about it.
So I think he's popular with the older members of the Academy because of his love of film. He's popular with the younger members of the Academy because of the Batman movies, right? So ultimately, he'll get
he's due. He will. I don't know that he'll win. The movie's lost a little bit of its critical luster in recent weeks, but who knows? It depends how.
Well, what else is out there?
I don't know.
We'll see how the Spielberg Papers film does.
We have a whole season of stuff, and last year. Truly, who saw either Moonlight or La La Land? La La Land people kind of saw, but who saw Moonlight? Who saw Moonlight coming from behind?
Well, Moonlight was the film where we realized, oh my God, there's actually all these younger members of the Academy that they've been letting in recently. Yeah. Those are the people who push that through.
Yeah.
Not the older members.
No. So we'll see.
So it's a whole new Academy now.
It is, and yes, for what I do want to get all of our older shows up there. Those are all archived. They have not been. They're not uploaded.
Put them on Synagogues.
Yeah, I'll get them up. Well, they'll be up. We'll get it all.
Like every week, you have another one.
Sure.
Or maybe that week, like this week in 1999. Here's what we talked about.
Lots of plans. Lots of good plans. We'll and Ray and Tim have a lot of stuff that they want to get up there too. So Ray's got some amazing stuff that's never been published. So, good stuff. And then lastly, Ray Song, leading into this, says, would absolutely love to have an accessible archive of the old Box Office DVD Roundup podcast. Same thing that Chevelle said. Perhaps when CineGods website is up and running. So, Ray, you were ahead of the curve. That's exactly what we plan on doing. The question is, do I put it up through Libsyn and make it an archived part of all of the podcasts, or do I make it something specific to the site?
Make it something specific to the site.
Yeah.
We need people to go to that site because Wade has big plans for us to make at least $5 a year on that site.
Yeah. All right, let's get cracking. We got some new movies and stuff.
Yeah, this is a DVD and Blu-ray podcast.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
It sure is. So last week we did talk about Baywatch. They have since sent us the 4K Baywatch, which I have to say is so much better than the Blu-ray.
It's even more boobalicious.
It's the HDR is you really absorb the abs. You really do.
I just think it was terrible.
Did you see Baywatch, Mark?
Yeah, it was terrible. That's my review. Yeah,
it's really, really horrible. But you know, Dwayne Johnson's great. He somehow works in everything. Even when the movie's terrible, he's good.
I love him. He's great. You know what? This is the sort of film that needed Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
It so did. It really did. Boy, did it ever. Oh, it so needed them. They could have done so much with it. So much potential. So it just all missed. So here's the thing. Here's the last thing I'm going to say about Baywatch, because we talked about it last week. The HDR really, you know, I'm trying to see as much stuff in 4K and Blu-ray as I can to sort of absorb the whole HDR thing. And, you know, we're going to get into the weeds very soon with HDR. And Baywatch kind of underlines that, because there are different HDR formats. Now, HDR on Blu-ray and 4K, you're fine. But the streaming HDR, there are different kinds of HDR. Did you know this?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, for example, if you want to take advantage of the HDR that they use on Netflix or on Vudu, which is the Dolby Vision version of HDR, the only televisions that will actually interpolate that are Vizio and LG. So you'd have to blow $4 or $5 grand on an LG OLED set or a comparable Vizio set, because they're the ones who have licensed Dolby Vision technology to decode that. It's not regular HDR.
Well, we don't
It's
want
Dolby specific.
But we don't want to have to buy a specific TV just to get one specific type of proprietary technology.
Right.
That's lame.
Yeah. So this stuff has to shake out. This is getting into like the old digital sound formats, you know. Okay, so got some interesting films. Well, you know what? First, let me hit this one first, because this is our one DVD, not a Blu-ray this week. Killing Hasselhoff. Don't hassle the Hoff. As long as we're on a little bit of a Baywatch kick, this is from the producers of Baywatch, which I guess means David Hasselhoff. So this is Ken Jeong and David Hasselhoff, who are both exploiting the fact that neither one of them can be taken seriously doing anything at all anymore. Is it funny? I guess on a very, very low kind of cheesy meta level. Ken Jeong is a nightclub guy who's in debt to a loan shark, and he sets out to get himself out of his predicament by killing David Hasselhoff, because there is this kind of annual celebrity death competition, and none of that makes sense, and it's not meant to. It's just a whole lot of shtick. It's just Ken Jeong running around trying to kill David Hasselhoff, who fights back. It's kind of silly and stupid, but they made a movie called Killing Hasselhoff.
And someday he will be dead.
David Hasselhoff can't play characters anymore. He can only play himself.
Do you ever picture, like, the headline that will someday happen? Harrison Ford dies at 79. Or
Yeah.
David Hasselhoff dies at 68.
Yeah,
Isn't
no,
that
I
kinda morbid?
don't really give that any thought.
But they're all going to die.
I know.
Justin Bieber dies at 52 of a heart attack.
And speaking of, we should point out that because you haven't been here since Jerry passed.
Yeah,
Your favorite
true.
Jerry? I mean, I'm really busted up about that, because I
was in Paris when he died.
Yeah, you were in Paris when he died.
They loved him.
I know. And you remember our wonderful Lafka evening? You remember then, right? Weren't you?
No.
With Jerry?
No. I saw Jerry live. I saw Jerry live a couple years ago. At the
Okay,
Savant
that's right. You
Theater.
weren't in Lafka yet. Well, because he had been the runner-up for years and years and years for the Career Achievement Award. And then one year, I finally just kind of gave it the mother of all pitches, and it carried, and I got to go up there and present Jerry his Career Achievement Award. And I posted a picture on Facebook of Ray and me with Jerry looking like, who are these people? But it's, I'm so busted up. I watched like 4 Jerry Lewis movies to
You know what's funny
get over
about
my morning.
You know what's funny about Jerry Lewis is that people here, if you really look at his films, because a lot of people have not seen his films for a long time, if they've seen it at all, you sort of understand why the French loved him. Because if you look at something like The Ladies' Man, with that whole dollhouse thing,
it's very Jacques Tati.
It looks like Tati. So you totally understand why the French would love him.
Of course.
You know, like we look at Jerry Lewis like the Nutty Professor, Blemons.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we look at, the silly part of it.
Yeah.
But the French look at the intellectual part of it, which we never really acknowledged here, but it was there.
Yeah. So sad. Well, and you know, Corey's very good at doing a few Jerry Lewis things.
Glavin.
Well, let me drop the Corey things in. Hold on.
Regularly.
I always love Corey doing Jerry. So, A Dark Song, available on Blu-ray. What? Yes. A Dark Song, available on Blu-ray, is an Irish film from writer-director Liam Gavin, who's an up-and-coming guy. And it's nicely done. I wish it were a little more substantial. It sort of basically is a woman and a guy locked in a house with a lot of scary things happening, and ultimately it isn't scary enough, but it is a competent and occasionally effective film. It just isn't as good as it should be. The idea is that this woman, her son was murdered, and she wants to she wants to talk to her son, so she's hired this kind of sketchy dude who is an expert in a Bramelin. A Bramelin is an actual real thing. It's an occultic way of connecting to your guardian angel and communicating with the dead or the beyond. And it's an actual thing that has a bit of a cultural history. Whatever. It's not something they made up for the movie, in other words. So it just isn't enough to really sustain this movie. But Gavin has talent, and I look forward to seeing what he does in the future. And then also we have The Last Face. Mark, did you see The Last Face by any chance?
Oh, I heard this was horrible.
Oh, my word.
This was a can. Was this not a can that got panned?
I don't even know if it was a can. This thing's been sitting on the shelf for years and years and years. Sean Penn directed this just unbelievably melodramatic, overwrought historical romance. This is like Graham Greene meets Somerset Maugham in modern day African war zones with two lovelorn white people trying to save all of the dark-skinned people and really caring much more about what happens to each other. It's a well-intentioned film, but this is like the ultimate misbegotten fruit of white guilt. Because we all know Sean Penn, really, very, very left-wing, liberal, bleeding heart guy, and which often translates into wonderful things. I mean, he went, after Katrina, and he was a full-on volunteer. And I mean, the guy, he really puts himself out there for his beliefs. However, it's all very misbegotten in this horrible, horrible movie. It's not a badly made movie. It's just the violins are just screaming at fever pitch throughout. It's just so over the top.
Well, first of all, it's called The Last Face. I mean, come on. A dumb name is that. It's not been a good year for Charlize Theron. Did you see Atomic Blonde?
I did. I liked it.
It was nonsense.
It is nonsense, but it's fun nonsense.
But I liked how he shot the fight scenes.
Oh, the fight scenes were great.
Right? Medium shot, not a lot of cuts.
Yeah.
I like that. That was great. The rest of it is nonsense.
No, well, of course it's nonsense, but it's fun nonsense.
No, fun not. Okay, the movie because I kept thinking of Ronin.
Yeah.
When I saw it,
which we're also going to talk about.
Ronin was nonsense.
Yeah.
But somehow it was so cool because that De Niro.
Yeah.
And those car chases.
Yeah.
And it was written by David Mamet.
Well, Charlize Theron and Javier Bardem are physicians without borders, sexually or otherwise, and they're just trying to save the world, and Africa's being torn apart, and they can't stop themselves from helping people or loving each other. And there it is. It's a silly movie. A lot of money went into this thing. It's not in the script. It's just endless. It really is, and it just doesn't go anywhere. But I guess there's some kitsch value to it.
Wait, here's a little surprise for you. A movie called BandAid.
Yeah.
Now, BandAid is the directing debut of a woman named Zoe Lister-Jones.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of Zoe Lister-Jones, I just can't stop thinking of the boxer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is a movie that sounds really coy and silly, but it kind of works. It's about this estranged couple, and they fight all the time. And instead of divorcing or breaking up or tearing each other's hair out, they decide to take all of their grievances and start a band and write songs all about how much they fight and how much they hate each other.
Fantastic.
So this band is comprised of songs about how they fight and what they fight about. And I mean, the songs are not as good as the guy who did, the guy we love, who did.
Verkackte Schmutzi.
No, who did the Keira Knightley film that we love? You know, that guy we love. He's done 3 films. Carney.
Oh, John Carney.
John Carney.
Yeah.
Okay, the songs are not as good as what John Carney would have done, but still, you know what? I just think it was such an interesting film. It could have been very coy, especially because Fred Armisen's in it, and Fred Armisen, I find that guy, like, he always winds up in these twee little coy little indie comedy things that kind of annoy the crap out of me. But this thing it's low key, but it's very charming and it's very sincere, and the music is good enough. And I think that Zoe Lister-Jones, she's got a career ahead of her.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll maybe direct more.
Yeah.
Break that barrier.
Do it.
Female director barrier.
Anyway,
nice little surprise BandAid.
You know you want there to be a director named Verkackte Schmutzi. You do.
In a world.
Megan Leavey. Based on the true story of a Marine's best friend.
Is it a doggy?
It's the worst.
Is it a doggy?
It's the worst tagline
the
ever.
The doggy. Now is Megan Leavey the dog or the woman?
Megan Leavey is the woman. Kate
Why not call it the dog?
I don't
Why
know.
not name it after the dog?
Kate Mara stars in Megan Leavey. It's a true story.
Imagine if Air Bud was named after the parents who owned him.
Yeah. So, here's the story.
Doggy.
Here's the deal. Megan Leavey, Kate Mara is very good in this. It's not a bad movie. It's quite a decent film. It's not great. It's just very decent because it's a very touching story. And Kate Mara hasn't had a lot of really great roles that put her front and center. She's kind of that supporting person. It's, her sister that's been getting all the plum parts. But she plays this young woman who's just kind of got a dead end life, and like a lot of people who've got no future, they join the Marines, and there she discovers that she has a connection with one of these German Shepherd combat dogs, which are trained for sniffing out bombs.
Trained to be stupid.
Yeah, well, they're trained to sniff out bombs and that kind of stuff. And so she becomes an expert, canine handler in the Marines. And it is the true story of what she and Rex is the name of the dog, very creative name there. It's the story of, their career becoming basically IED sniffers. And
IUD sniffers? That's just weird. I don't know what kind of movie that is.
I'll
be honest with you.
Okay. So, anyway, it's a good movie. It's not great. It's not the thing you should have gone to see in the theaters. It really, despite being an Iraq War movie, it's not really a theatrical experience, to be honest. It's fine at home. So you can get it on with. It's got digital HD for iTunes and ultraviolet and that whole deal. And rock on. You'll enjoy it.
Wait, there's a movie called Chronically Metropolitan. If you think to yourself, a movie called Metropolitan probably harkens back a lot to the work of Whit Stillman.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of Philip Roth. And you'd be right. And this thing is just a little too navel gazing. It's about a New York City. It's very cosmopolitan looking. It's about a New York City writer. His name is Fenton. So already I hate the film.
Yeah.
Because the main character's name is Fenton. And he returns to New York, and he wants to win his girlfriend back, and but she's engaged to somebody else, and so he also had written a book based on the life of her parents and their failed marriage, and she didn't forgive him for that. So this is all about him, the two of them facing possibly the reigniting of their relationship, and it's one of those things that's like it's a little bit pretentious and it's a little too surface skimming in terms of the characters, kind of predictable. I guess maybe if you like this kind of sub-Whit Stillman stuff, you might get a couple laughs out of it. Good location filming. Mary Louise Parker, Chris Noth play the parents, and that's always a good thing. But ultimately, I just don't get it. So I think this thing just annoyed the crap out of me, basically, is what it did. It annoyed me. And you know what? And I am not a fan of Whit Stillman, by the way. I am not a fan of Whit Stillman's films. I'm a big fan of Noah Baumbach's films.
Yeah.
Noah Baumbach is the man.
I'm touch and go with both of them. I'm touch and go with both of them.
How dare you?
And then we've got, and by the way, a very interesting thing has happened. I don't know if you've noticed this, but the movies that are coming out with Ultraviolet now from Universal and Fox and everybody else, they mostly don't say Ultraviolet anymore. They've abandoned the brand. They're all just saying digital HD, and they're kind of putting the iTunes logo out there. So Ultraviolet's still a thing, but the brand is struggling. So they're trying to just brand it as digital HD because I don't think anybody knew what Ultraviolet was. But anyway, My Cousin Rachel with Rachel Weisz.
I have a cousin named Rachel.
Yeah, I know
I
you
do.
do. Rachel Weisz and Sam Claflin in My Cousin Rachel, based on a novel by Daphne du Maurier, who is most famous for writing the source material for Rebecca, which we also are going to make mention of today. This is the kind of film that I really should absolutely adore, and I like it. I don't like it as much as I felt like I should. It's very Rebecca-ish. It's a period piece. It's very, it's sort of like, I mean, the thing about Daphne du Maurier, it was like Jane Austen with a grudge. That's how it comes across. Jane Austen wrote about people in wonderful romances, and Daphne du Maurier wrote about people with very, very dark secrets that prevent them from having constructive romances. And so there's a revenge angle here that's very interesting, probably not played out as effectively as it should be. And obviously Rachel Weisz is great as this very dark femme fatale figure. Kind of Victorian noir is maybe the best way to describe this. Worth seeing, definitely worth seeing, worth watching. Probably more a rental than anything else, but I feel like it should have been in the Oscar mix if it had been pulled off correctly. So, unfortunately, it wasn't. My Cousin Rachel on Blu-ray.
Well, thank you, Ross. Hi, everybody. Let me talk to you about Securities, starring Antonio Banderas and Ben Kingsley. Antonio Banderas, who shouldn't be doing a film like this because nobody can believe him as this kind of a guy, and I don't know what he's thinking doing this film, other than they might have just given him a lot of money and said, we can get you in and out of here in 3 weeks and give you $1 million.
Yeah.
He plays a guy with post-traumatic stress who tries to ride out his problems as a security guard in a mall. And oh my God, who enters the mall but the bad guys, led by Ben Kingsley. Antonio Banderas as the mall cop, whose name is not John McClane, winds up in having a mano-a-mano with these terrible bad people at the mall, running around, presumably going to Annie's Pretzels or Wetzel's Pretzels and maybe chowing down on some pretzels. And
So I watched an Antonio Banderas movie last night that I have to talk about on Film Week. It's called Gun Shy, directed by what's his name who did Con Air. Yeah, I did Con Air.
Simon West?
Yeah, Simon West did it. It's the stupidest movie I've ever seen in my life. I'm not going to give much of a Film Week preview here, but it's so stupid. It's actually funny. I mean, it's so beyond stupid. Antonio Banderas plays an aging 80s hair metal rock god icon who insists that he's not. I don't speak Spanish. I'm English. That's like one of the jokes in the movie. You go, what? Really? I am English. I don't speak Spanish. Okay, shut up. That joke works once, not 7 times. Until the last time, oh, he's so good to hear Spanish again. Oh, stop it. Anyway, he goes to Chile with his wife for some reason, and she gets kidnapped, and then he's fighting with the CIA. It's so silly and so just completely misbegotten, and yet it's so dumb that you just can't help but laugh at how dumb it is. You remember when Ben Kingsley and Antonio Banderas would have been a movie that you wanted to see? It's like, wow, that's a cast.
Well, Ben Kingsley, he's kind of in that weird De Niro phase where, you used to love him and now he does everything and he's lost all of his luster. He's won an Oscar and he was so exalted, and now look what he does.
Well, anyway. All right, so Lowriders on Blu-ray, DVD, and with Ultraviolet, but they're not pushing it as Ultraviolet anymore. This is a Brian Grazer-produced thing that this movie really belongs in like the late 80s. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just one of those, remember when we had all those movies that were all kind of about like Blood In, Blood Out? And all those movies that were sort of about East Los Angeles Latino gangs and, getting out and and tattoos
Colors.
and
Colors.
and what was the American Me, the
Sure.
James Olmos thing. This kind of belongs in that moment. Lowriders is the cars and that's been done to death in the movies from the late 80s, early 90s, and there's really not any room for this anymore. That said, they got a good cast and some good performances here, and the idea of this kid who's an artist, Gabriel Chavarria. He's very, very good. He's a street artist, and he wants to, make right in his life, and that's always a fairly compelling story. Demian Bashir and Eva Longoria are in here. It's a good cast, and it's not a badly made movie. It just feels like thematically it belongs to a different era. It belongs 25 years ago. But that said, I'm not gonna slam it. It's nicely put together. Brian Grazer produced it, so there's some luster to it.
Wait, speaking of luster, it's time for us to bow down just a little bit to Michael Keaton.
Yep, I agree.
Early Michael Keaton. It's been a long time since people have watched Night Shift, but do you remember how great Night Shift was when we saw it?
I do, and you know what? He's one of the best things in Jackie Brown, by the way.
I know.
When he's sitting there, when she's sitting there and she's just cool as ice, and she's spinning her whole plan and her whole plot to him, and she's just lying through her teeth and just trying to sell him on buying into this, and he's sitting there on the desk and he's bouncing around, and you see the wheels turning in his head, and he's trying to figure it out. And I mean, that's just classic Michael Keaton. It's just beautiful. It is beautiful acting.
I sat next to Michael Keaton at Rustic Canyon in Santa Monica. The restaurant in Wilshire in 9th or something.
Sure.
And I think he was being interviewed. He was being interviewed. He was on a cell phone a lot, and even just at this bar, you could tell that here's a guy whose brain never stops churning.
Never.
He's almost like a really, really smart Ratso Rizzo.
Yeah, and he's a good director too. He's only directed one film, and it was a good film, but it just didn't get any traction.
Well, it wasn't Mr. Mom. Mr. Mom was directed by Stan Dragati, which is kind of a shame because it was written by John Hughes and should have been directed by John Hughes.
Yeah.
But he turned it down. So this is a film about a guy. He plays a guy who loses his job. He's got 3 kids, got to take care of them. So his wife, played by the late great Terry Garr, has to go back to work, leaving Jack to take care of the kids and fight off the vacuum cleaner and and dry his kid in the bathroom hairdryer, hand dryer.
Yeah.
This thing is funny, man. It's a funny movie. Is it a great film? No, but it's got a terrific cast, including Martin Mull and Christopher Lloyd. Written by John Hughes. If John Hughes had written this, it would have had a lot different tone.
Oh yeah.
Stan Dragati is a little bit of a journeyman kind of guy, but still, it's funnier than you think. It's got a lot of great stuff in it. It was the stay-at-home dad thing was kind of a novelty back then.
Yeah.
Now it's less of a novelty. So it's great. It's terrific.
And that's from the Shout Select line, who keeps bringing us really, really interesting stuff. And then we also have some 4Ks this week of movies that have been out previously. Prometheus, which is out on 4K, obviously, because the new Alien film's on 4K. And, Prometheus looks really, really good. 4K. Just want to say that. It looks really, really good. This is probably going to be one of the more standard 4K. The HDR is really superb. This is they really went to town on this, and understandably, it was shot on digital, and it's got all the credentials to be a great 4K movie. A little bit less so are Red and Red 2. I'm not quite sure why.
I don't like these films. Why was there a sequel to this?
Lionsgate Summit have thrown both of the Red films out on 4K, and I think that's just to sort of get some attention because there's not a ton of 4K product out there. So maybe people who don't have a lot of discs will say, "What the hell? I'll get Red and Red too." But really, you don't need to own these movies. You don't need to own them in 4K or on Blu-ray. If you've seen them once, you've seen them as much as you need to. I just don't think they sustain. Why was there a Red 2? I mean, it's a great cast of people.
Well,
I love them all.
It's got a great overseas cast. It has Helen Mirren, right?
Yeah.
Plays well overseas. Bruce
Morgan
Willis,
Freeman, John Malkovich,
Bruce Willis still plays well overseas, although I don't know what's happened to that guy.
Yeah.
Have you seen the trailer for Death Wish?
Looks terrible.
I know.
Looks really bad. Yeah, Anthony Hopkins pops up in Red 2 here. Mary Louise Parker. I really like the people in these movies. I just don't particularly like these movies. The tone is weird, but I know people who kind of like it. They think it's got a real nice kind of sadistic, serio-comic vibe, and I don't know. It's not my thing.
Speaking of sadistic and serial comic, The Lion King
Yay.
is out on Blu-ray. This is the Circle of Life edition, which doesn't mean much, but it's got a couple of extras. The guy who played the villain, David Garibaldi, creating the interpretation of Scar. We have some of the recording sessions. This, of course, if you didn't know, is the all-time classic, 1994, I believe.
I'm less of a fan of The Lion King than most people. I know people were like, it's an original Disney story. I said, no, it's Hamlet. Stop it. It's not that original.
Yeah, but everything's based on something else. You can't knock it for that.
But the thing is, they were saying, oh, it's the first one that's not, that's not based on a fairy tale. Yeah, no, it is. It's Hamlet. Stop it. It may not officially. It may not be called, Hamlet the Lion King, or the Lion King who couldn't make up his mind, but it's Hamlet.
What's interesting too is that it's the music. This was not the Menken what's his name collaboration. This is Elton John and Tim Rice. This is a whole different situation.
Yeah.
And they were the golden duo.
They were.
Right?
I mean, this thing was a phenomenon. It rightfully blew the doors off of everything at the time because it is a very well-made, well-animated, well-conceived movie. I recognize everything that works about it. It's just not my favorite. Not my favorite. I much prefer all the princess stuff. I got a daughter. What do you want? I like the.
What do you want from me?
What do you want from me? All right, and then two. One from Criterion and another one from the wonderful people at Cohen. Our Criterion this week is Rebecca, another Daphne du Maurier movie. Nicely timed to show the My Cousin Rachel people how it's done. From 1940, Rebecca won Best Picture the year after Gone with the Wind. Same producer, David O. Selznick. This was the great triumph of Selznick's collaboration with Alfred Hitchcock. The only film of Hitchcock's that ever won Best Picture. Hitchcock did not, however, win Best Director. And that continues to be something that perplexes a lot of people. However, it is also it's much more of a Selznick film than it is a Hitchcock film. Nonetheless, it represents the best of both of them. It is. This has been out on DVD for many times previously, and it was also out previously on DVD from Criterion. And this is the Blu-ray Criterion that will just become the standard of all time. This is an absolutely fantastic release. Has the Leonard Leff commentary from 1990. Tons and tons and tons and tons of extras. There's a making of documentary from 2007 and costume tests and there's no end to it. It's all the stuff here is really, really wonderful. There's even an interview with Joan Fontaine from 1980, which is about the latest that I've seen her interviewed anywhere, and it's great. Everything about this is great. You have to own it. This is an essential film to have in any library. And I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial, but this. Well, it's controversial to me, maybe. I saw Rebecca, the first time I saw Rebecca projected, I'd seen it on television before, but the first time I saw it projected was in film school with a UCLA archival nitrate print, which is one of the most stunning things I've ever seen in my life. You have not lived until you have seen Rebecca nitrate projected, which most people never will. It's, there may be two nitrate prints of it existing, and one of them is at UCLA. However, the second best way to see this is on this Blu-ray. It is so beautiful. It is so gorgeous. I'd rather watch this Blu-ray than most things on 4K. It is really, really stunning. So, Criterion's Rebecca Blu-ray, do not miss it. And then also a nice rediscovery. Cohen Media, for whom I've done a number of commentaries, has recently picked up most of, if not all of, the Merchant Ivory films, and they are doing a great job with them. I did the commentary for Howard's End, and now comes Maurice. And Maurice is one of the more underrated of the Merchant Ivory films. It's a little bit different because Ruth Prawer-Jabvala did not write the screenplay, and you can tell it's a slightly different take. It's a little bit more. James Ivory co-wrote the script, so it's much more tilted towards his sensibilities as a writer. But it's still a really, really fine film. It is significant in the E.M. Forster canon because Forster wrote this but did not publish it because it was basically a gay romance that was based significantly on his own sexuality and his own experiences. And Forster was a closeted gay man most of his career, so this was not published until the 1970s. So, after his passing. So, Maurice holds a very, very unusual place in the E.M. Forster canon, but it is still a really, really good movie. And this is a Blu-ray from a 4K restoration of the original negative, overseen by James Ivory and Pierre Lum, who was the cinematographer, and lots of great extras here. Audio commentary by James Ivory. And it's a good movie. It's a darn good movie. So Maurice, highly recommended. 30th anniversary 4K restoration on Blu-ray.
Ronin is out again on Blu-ray. Big fan of Ronin. This one is done by Arrow, and considering that this has been out before, Arrow did a great job putting this thing together. Brand new video interviews with the DP, and they have this thing in 1994 feature out in the film called "You Talking to Me." It's an appreciation of De Niro by Quentin Tarantino, who we talked about earlier. There's a thing on composing the score, and it's really good. This film is just terrific. It looks great. It's a new 4K scan, 1080p HD. The film obviously takes place in a lot of gray environments, garages and these cobblestone streets. But it looks terrific. It sounds terrific. It's got great car chases, obviously, which is what it's known for. But it also has a great script with polished by David Mamet, working under a pseudonym. And it's got a great cast. Stellan Skarsgård, Sean Bean, Jonathan Pryce, obviously De Niro, and Jean Reno. Big international cast. Terrific movie. Really kind of a one-of-a-kind film. I remember seeing the trailer for this film, thinking there's a shot in this trailer that makes me think this movie will be a hit.
Yeah.
Because at the time, this is like 1990 something. What was this? What was this new movie? This is 1998.
Oh wow, as late as 8.
Now, 1998.
Yeah.
CGI, it wasn't what it is now. Now we expect it.
Right.
But back then CGI was a little bit of not a novelty, but like, oh, look at CGI, look how cool it looks.
Yeah.
But there was a shot in the trailer where they take a bazooka and they're driving down a mountain road.
Yep.
And the bazooka blows up the car in front of them.
Yeah.
And the car flips over on this mountain road. And they have like a big helicopter taking that shot.
Yeah.
And you knew that was not CGI.
Yeah.
And at the time when CGI was becoming the new plastic fantastic thing, here's a shot of an actual car actually flipping over on an actual mountain road. And you know there's no CGI. And you're like, this one's cool.
Yeah.
And it's kind of become not a cult classic, but kind of a beloved film in that world. So John Frankenheimer killing it. His last great film, Ronin. Check it out. Arrow did a great job on it.
Some more stuff from Arrow. We got a couple of horror things. Blu-ray and DVD combo set of Madhouse. You ever see Madhouse? Madhouse is kind of one of those giallo deals from Ovidio Assonitis. Now, Ovidio Assonitis is the guy who picked up the baton from James Cameron and made Piranha 2: The Spawning. That's his claim to fame. And he then went on to make Madhouse, which is, kind of a weird, odd, giallo Hollywood exploitation hybrid thing. It's all shot in Georgia, even though it's an Italian film. And it's not as how do I put this? It's not as it's a haunted house slasher movie, but it's not as gory as a giallo film, or it's not as sort of self-consciously shock gore as a giallo film. But it's also a little more in that vein than what was being done in Hollywood at the time. So it kind of splits the difference between the two, and it's. For fans of the genre, I guess there's something to be said about this. It comes with a lot of extras to kind of contextualize it. Great audio, shockingly good audio. There's an interview with the cinematographer and a new interview with Assonitis himself. And, it's a thing. Similar is The Slayer. The Slayer is hysterically cheesy. I don't know if it deserves a DVD Blu-ray combo. But this is directed by J.S. Cardone, who is also one of those guys who just made tons of these kinds of movies over and over and over. This is just straight up secluded island slasher stuff. There's no compromise. That's exactly what it is. It is it's unapologetic. It's gory. It does its thing, and then it checks out. This is a 1980s slasher movie without any veneer. It's not trying to be a good movie. It's not trying to be an acclaimed movie. It's not even trying to be one of the best of its genre. It's just giving them blood and gore and a really obvious setup, and that's it. Tons and tons of extras here, isolated score bits and interviews and makeup interviews with the makeup people, and they load this thing up because they know what the fans want.
You know what the fans should want?
What should they want?
Mike Figgis' first film as a director, the forgotten, but should not be forgotten because it's really cool, even if it's just an exercise in style.
Yeah.
Stormy Monday.
Nice.
Now, Stormy Monday is it's weird because it takes place in the 50s and 60s in Newcastle, right?
Yeah.
The score. Now, don't forget, Mike Figgis, as you remember, it was, and I presume still is, a very talented musician. And the film has this avant-garde jazz score, really interesting stuff. It was by Mike Figgis, who's obviously a musician, but it feels avant-garde jazz. There's a lot of Polish musicians in it. But he takes all of these other European influences and he just adds a huge, just syrupy, delicious dollop of just noir visuals and noir iconography. And he just makes this thing into a really cool little film. It's with Sean Bean, who we just talked about, who's in Ronin. He plays this guy, owns a jazz club, and the jazz club's owned by Sting. And the jazz club owner is under pressure from this American crime boss to kind of get himself a piece of the action at this club. And, what it's about is not that important. It's really an exercise in style, but a really cool exercise in style. And I just like this film a lot. I had completely forgotten about it. At the time, it was a little bit of a mini oh, Mike Figgis, who's this guy? Super cool. Melanie Griffith is in it too. So I would definitely take the time to discover Stormy Monday. Good DVD and Blu-ray combo thanks to Arrow, including a audio commentary by Figgis, which is moderated by a film critic, Damon Wise. And, there's a tour of Newcastle, then and now, which is really super cool because I love that. I'm a bit of a Euro freak. Stormy Monday, very good stuff. Tommy Lee Jones, Sting, Sean Bean, Melanie Griffith, pretty much the only people who are in this thing. Not a big cast, but Roger Deakins shot it, so Roger Deakins, come on. Beautiful stuff. Stormy Monday, definitely check it out.
Nice. And then rounding out the rest of the Arrow stuff is a couple from the Arrow Academy line, which is the more legit stuff, the less exploitation-y, fansy, pop culture-y stuff. Whenever they want to get really Criterion-y, that's what they do. They throw it over onto the Arrow Academy line. Terror in a Texas Town. Really interesting Western. Last film directed by Joseph H. Lewis, who had done things like Big Combo and Gun Crazy, with a script by Dalton Trumbo. And the screenplay credit, of course, went to Ben L. Perry because Dalton Trumbo was blacklisted at the time. And this is one of his more interesting, one of the angrier Dalton Trumbo scripts. If you sort of know that it was written by Dalton Trumbo, you see all the political commentary in it, and you sort of feel his rage seeping through. Very, very interesting film, very interesting Western, and really worth rediscovering. This is from a 2K restoration, has a great batch of extras on here, including this really interesting introduction from Peter Stanfield, who's written a lot about these kinds of films. And then the very fine The Love of a Woman, the Jean Gramillon melodrama, which is... You ever seen this? This is great. This is also the last feature of Jean Gramillon, who's just a terrific and very underrated French filmmaker, which takes place. It's one of these great kind of sexual allegories that takes place on a remote island, and it's about a young woman who is replacing the doctor, but everybody else on the island, the one doctor who's on the island, and almost everybody else here is male. And of course, she immediately becomes a sexual object, and then there's a romance that ensues, and lots of very interesting commentary. It's a really, really interesting movie. Really worth checking out if you've never seen it. The Love of a Woman, a Blu-ray DVD combo set from Arrow Academy. And then the last two from the Arrow line this week are two really rather amazing box sets. These are, if you're a fan of these, you're going to go nuts. Re-Animator, This is the complete big mega Arrow Re-Animator with the 2-disc limited edition, the unrated version on disc 1, and then the integral version on disc 2. It even comes with a Re-Animator comic, a limited edition exclusive. The original 1991 comic book adaptation, 92 pages, all of this, tons and tons of extras. Stuart Gordon, who's a really nice guy, who's actually guested in Ray Green's class at Loyola a few times. This is kind of his high water mark, to be honest. I think Gordon really, despite all of his kind of cheesy movies, this is the one that everybody seems to remember and pays attention to. It's, very Frankenstein-esque, but it's Re-Animator. I mean, come on.
Well, he's lived off that for decades at this point. It's like George Romero.
Yeah. Tons and tons of extras here. So if you're a Re-Animator fan, this is a Blu-ray DVD combo set with a comic book, a 92-page comic book that'll just completely set your hair on fire. And then lastly, I cannot recommend this more highly. Kinji Fukasaku's New Battles Without Honor and Humanity, the complete trilogy. Kinji Fukasaku, of course, very influential on Quentin Tarantino, a classic figure in Japanese cinema, great crime films, his Yakuza films, just a tremendous figure in the 60s and 70s, and this is amazing. If you're a fan of his stuff, you will not be able to do without this. This is just, it's just beautifully transferred. The films are great. DVD and Blu-ray versions of all of them. This is just perfect fan fodder. So you get all the teasers and the theatrical trailers for all the films. You get a new video appreciation from his biographer, Sadao Yamane. It's great. It's really, really great. Interviews with the screenwriter. This is terrific. So Kinji Fukasaku fans can celebrate. You get Battles Without Honor and Humanity, the complete trilogy in this fantastic Arrow box set. It is to die for. And with that, Mark, we will be back next week. The countdown to your departure continues. We've got some great interviews banked for future shows, by the way. Yay. So next week, we're going to have a really good interview. And we will see everybody next week.